some light. Welcome to Sandbag Sunday. I'm going to be spending some time with you discussing my first 3 weeks on the boat and did I get it right? Am I enjoying it? There's yeah, it's not as easy. It's not as easy to say, am I enjoying it? Well, yes. But it's taking some time. Anyway, welcome to Sandbag Sunday. I'm going to be sat there on the couch, on the dinette. I'm going to make myself a cup of tea and then I'll speak to you in a bit. The corner of the dinette is actually not too bad as long as I've got the leg up. This is the second one in the series, and unfortunately Tony's not here because he was a great hit last time. So the humour, this is more factual, and this is about my feelings of the first 3 weeks on a boat, what I've got right and what I've got wrong. Now I appreciate this is not anything to do with, you know, travelling or anything like that. This is about me talking about openly, honestly, about my life to date and whether I made a wise decision to buy a narrowboat and live on it. I appreciate this isn't for everybody. If you want boaty type stuff, then there's always Tuesdays, but this is going to be a frank discussion. Let's start off. Caroline picks up Tony, and you know, part of the conversation was, you know, Tony, would you like to do this? A resounding no. Oh, why is that? She said. He said, because I'll be lonely. And he had a point, and that's something I had considered but not really digested in my head. I've been lonely on the boat for 3 weeks. Not when Tony was here. I've had visits from Glenn when I was at Fox and Locks. I'd had visits from a couple of RAF lads again whilst I was at Fox and Locks. But me personally, I've been lonely, and I didn't realise how much I need people around me. And I put myself in lockdown before the term lockdown was known, because I wanted to save as much as I possibly could so that I don't own anything on this boat. Well, it's not strictly true. I got a 10 grand loan to pay for the upgrades. But other than that loan, which is absolutely manageable, that, you know, the boat's mine. So I haven't really got a massive outlay. So sacrificing stuff early on, I think, was a wise decision, so that I haven't got an extortionate amount of money to pay for on a boat. That was a different type of loneliness because it was by choice. I used to lock myself away in a room, do lots of research, do lots of reading, and but if I went to the kitchen to make something to eat, I'd meet someone. If I went to the dining room to get something to eat, we'd sit down and we'd have a discussion and all that sort of stuff. And of course I was still at work. This is the first time that I have been alone properly, and there's a difference between being alone in a house and being alone on a boat. Being alone in a house, if you go to the shops, you see it's familiarity. You've got the same shop, or you have the same couple of shops, or you see the same people behind the counter, and people walking the dogs. Neighbours are the same. You pop and say hello, you know, hello, and people walking down the street, hello. Familiarity. And I think if you're a boater and you're living in a marina, you've still got that familiarity where you know, neighbours, people meet in the clubhouse, or whatever it is you do on a marina. Not been in one, I'm just imagining it. It's similar. And if you're a CC by name, but you're staying in the same location for schooling, jobs, or just because you've got you know, family support in that area, children, whatever, then that's a little harder. But when you're on your own, and you're travelling around the network, I've found it really lonely because there's no familiarity. You don't have the same people. You don't ever see the same people. I meet people in locks, you know, have a great chat. I meet people on the towpath and have a bit of a chat with them, and it's been lovely. But they've gone, and then I've felt alone. So I needed to have a word with myself, take some MUPs, and I listened to some music, and I've been singing around to it, and I've found myself a little bit of a routine, and now I've bedded in. I said this on episode 1, that it's going to take a little bit of adjustment time, and it has, and it's taken about 3 weeks. And I think in hindsight, having people come, look, Tony come to stay for 4 days is a great little break, and may that well continue. People you know, have a short couple of days or something on the boat with me, but I'm used to my own company again, properly used to it, because it's different to being in a house. So if you are considering buying a boat and you're on your own, it takes some time. Give it some time, and have a word with yourself sometimes. This is the life I've chosen. I've done it through research. I've done it with my eyes wide open, and a big but, you get over it. If you're an extreme extrovert, I would argue Tony is, then maybe this isn't your life. This isn't the life for you. Let me tell you, it's hard on your own. So if you're going to be a boater on your own and you're going to be CCing, it is a lot harder than I expected it to be. If you're in the couple, great, because someone can steer the boat while you're hauling it in or doing the locks or whatever it is, and that other person is company. I know what you're going to be saying. You'll be saying, well, why don't you get yourself a dog? Well, I've considered that, and I think that would be a knee-jerk reaction at this moment in time, albeit it's on the cards probably, perhaps 6 months to a year. I'm going to give myself, I said it, I'm going to give myself 6 months to a year to work out whether I need a dog. I'd like one. Do I need one? And at the moment, I don't want one. I've got to learn this boaty stuff without bringing another life on board that has 4 legs and requires a bit of walking, a bit of attention. I love the cuddles with dogs. I'm a doggy person, but I want to be responsible. Missed him. Okay, what have I got right? I can remember being in, you know, having a discussion with Mark at the design phase, and some fellow was working in the back office, and he was listening to a conversation, because I didn't want a bow thruster, you know, anything like that. I was going to continuously cruise, so I didn't need lithium. And he said to me, there's lots of things you don't need on a boat. You don't need a kitchen. You don't need you know, a bedroom. But what you do need in a 66-foot boat is a bow thruster. And it doesn't matter how well a driver, steerer, helmsman you are, at some stage or other you're going to need that bow thruster to get you out of trouble. He is so right. There have been three occasions to date, and I've only been on the water 3 weeks. All of them have happened on a blind bend, where there's reeds coming up on the left side, so I've been on the outside trying to poke my nose round the corner. I've had parked boats on the towpath side, and then I've met someone coming the other way who's equally coming on the outside lane, wanted to see round the corner. Now fortunately, first example, they had a white antenna, box antenna thing, which I saw allowed me to slow down, and hopefully he was awake. He was, thankfully. I had nowhere to go to the right because of parked boats, and one of them was a wooden boat, and I've got 20 tons of steel. There was nowhere for him to go on the left because of the massive reeds, that have taken up half the canal. My four-bladed propeller is very responsive. The boat is responsive. So I'm able, when I'm at tick over, to slow down very quickly and even pull to a stop. He was giving it maximum reverse revs, and because of that and the water changing shape, the bow came into his view, and I was able to, and oh, how good was that? And even when they passed, he said, "Oh, thank goodness for bow thruster." Well, you know, that was a good bit of steering, and it was to avoid that confrontation. Thankfully, both people were awake. If one of them isn't awake, i.e. you've then yeah, would have happened quite easily. The next one that's worthy of note was coming out of Blissworth Tunnel. Again, boats parked on the mooring side, on a blind bend, trees overhanging, reeds coming out. There's only room for one boat. Had the towpath, had the canal been cut back, there's still room for two boats. Another issue. There was boats all the way. Now, fortunately, I had just passed a bit of a parking space, so I stopped, reversed into that parking space, using a bow thruster. Now, behind me was a GRP. That fella was on a bit of a flap because he knew what was coming, and there's nothing anyone could have done about it, but he was getting ready to move his boat forward just in case I was getting a bit too close. But I slid into that parking space, you know, in reverse, put the revs forward to stop bashing into him, and he said, "That was pretty good, mate." Boat passed, didn't even say thank you. There's a classic example where bow thrusters have come to their own. I had to reverse into that tight little spot, and without bow thrusters, I'm not sure what would have happened, to be fair. It would have taken a while. And you know, it's nice to know that people appreciated what I did. Didn't even thank me. At Blissworth Locks, you're on the towpath side. On the lock landing, there's a load of gushing water coming out, so the bow was pushed out, and I couldn't reverse because the parking space behind me was for Blissworth Tunnel cruise people. Boat was in the middle of the canal, and I was on the towpath trying to pull it in. It was hard work. It was properly hard work, and I just have to leave the boat in the middle, and it was tied on the bow end, and it was tied on the centre line whilst I dealt with the locks. Meanwhile, Blissworth cruise crew sat on their boat. Look at him struggling. You didn't need to help, fellas. You didn't need to, and you didn't. Thanks very much. But that brings me on to another point where Tony said you had to be strong as an older person to be on the boats, and I managed, don't get me wrong, but it took a long time trying to pull the boat back in to get into the lock, and fortunately some fella came to my rescue, which was very nice of them, some South African fella. Meanwhile, GRP bloke was on the opposite side, seeing all the dramas, and he was giving me a little bit of advice in the lock. He goes, "Are you on your own?" I said, "Yeah." "Okay, I'll help you through the 7 locks." Paul, what a nice bloke you are. He detailed his sons. I think he's tied up his boat, detailed his sons, go down there, sort the locks out, and he was doing the paddles. What a nice bloke. So Paul has been, and his lads have been really kind in giving me a hand to get through these locks, because to be honest I would have struggled without him. What a top bloke. Thanks very much, Paul. Had it not been for him, those 7 locks coming out of Blissworth Tunnel, I would have struggled with. I would have done it, don't get me wrong, but I would have struggled. You do, as a lone boater, need to have a certain amount of agility, strength, tenacity. I think smaller boats might be easier to handle. It's a big old boat, this. And if you're a lady on your own, DNA doesn't give you the strength that a bloke's got. So I'm not saying women can't do it, I'm not saying anything like that, but just be mindful that there are some positions and some locks where brute strength is required. I'm not sure I've got enough all the time, and hence the reason South African helped me out, and Paul, top bloke, top bloke. I'm not necessarily superstitious, but I am thinking that little tipple I paid to Poseidon and Neptune might have paid off. Bow thrusters, so I've done that. 4-bladed propellers, done that. Location of pots and pans, I've got that right. Those 2 floating shelves have been an absolute gift. Pots and pans take up a massive amount of room in drawers or anything like that, and you know what? That's the right place. Held on by magnets at the bottom. John Lewis type of pans, so they're proper metal at the bottom. It's great. 50 horsepower engine makes a difference. 4-bladed propeller makes a difference. I refueled yesterday and I've put 55 litres in the tank to see how much fuel I've used in my journey so far. I've done 52 hours. The sums add up about a litre an hour. Now I did have some fuel before I did do some travelling before I topped up 100%, and I'll probably use about another 10 litres probably. So I'm using a little more than a litre an hour. Lithium. I'm glad I forked out for lithium. This is a power hungry boat, mainly because I've got a computer on it that's power hungry. But yesterday I put the solar panels were flat, then I tilted them. The difference of those is at flat they were drawing 23 amps, and when they were tilted 37 amps. That is an awful lot of difference. So again, if you're buying a boat, if you're considering getting solar, the tilty ones give you an awful lot more power, and having the lithium battery, it just absorbs that. I have, when I was at Foxton Locks, I was able to move up the locks, stay there for 6 days whilst I was waiting for my service kit, and I didn't need to put the engine on to charge batteries. Other than that, if I was at 50%, which I'm at the moment, after a full day of editing on that power hungry computer, a day in the sun, I went to bed at 80%, and that was just the sun giving me that, and that solar panel. Lithium, I don't think I'd be having the experience on this boat if I didn't have lithium, if I didn't have a bow thruster, if I didn't have a 50 horsepower and a 4-bladed propeller. I've got nothing to measure against the 4-bladed propeller with, other than other boaters appear to be having their engines revving a lot harder than what I've needed to do. That propeller makes an awful lot of difference. Things I've got wrong: Prussian blue. And the reason why I've got that wrong is because it shows hand marks, greasy little handprints. So mindful now, I just have to be careful of just opening with the door handles. I can't think of anything else. The colour's lovely. I'm not, you know, I don't regret getting the colour. It just shows the handprints a little bit too easily. Microwave. Do I need one? So far, no. And I've used that microwavey type cupboard, the lifty up cupboard, for all sorts of stuff. So at the moment, I'm going to stay away from microwaves, although they are useful. Why is it that boaty people boat or more on a blind bend? When there's reeds up and there's trees across and there's bushes sticking out, and there's only one place, there's only room for one boat to pass, when there should be, if the canal was cut back a bit, sufficient room for 2 boats. But now there's not. Again, I don't know whether there's etiquette, whether there's laws, whether there's common sense. Now, I was watching a YouTube channel when these particular tubers had a bit of a bump with another boat. Now, I'm not going to cast aspersions or anything like that, but I'm going to look into what are the rules if you bump another boat. I don't know. I don't necessarily want an answer, but if you want to offer an answer, I'm going to do my own homework anyway. But I think it's important because I can see, and I've heard stories of people along the towpath that say, oh yeah, some boat smashed into the side of my boat. And don't get me wrong, if someone smashed into the side of my boat, I would be a little bit upset. Only because it may not cause damage to the boat, but what about if glass is smashed or this smashed or whatever? So I just want to know the rules. And so, some of you have noticed that I've lost my wok. Or, yeah, I have lost my wok. It's a shallow frying pan still, but you know, 3 weeks, that's not too bad actually. I think I've taken up enough of your time over Sunday, so thanks for watching, thanks for liking, and thanks for subscribing. I need to wear my hat because I've done it again, but somewhere different, and this time side hatch. Oh. So anyway, next week, not too sure. See what happens this week, and yeah, I am enjoying it now. I'm going to become one of those whingers and moaners if I don't get a grip of myself. I mean, there are times people whiz down, and then as they come to you, put the boat in tick over. Well, you've been doing 5 miles an hour before you got to my boat. Just putting the engine in tick over now ain't going to make any difference, is it? Come on, tick over, mate. Come on. Next week.